Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we're going to get into it. Why does power corrupt? Have you been in a place of power? Why guys overcompensate when power changes in relationships? I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And if you have a story you want to share, send it into writemac.com, WRITMAC.com. And I could unpack your story in a live stream just like this, or we could book a live coaching session. Today's a topic I've talked about before, and I'll talk about it again because it happens again and again in relationships, and it's good to touch up on some of this stuff. And sometimes the timing's not right for good information. And that's what happens when you're in a breakup. You start doing self-improvement. You start going to the gym. You start working on yourself as an individual. Some of these things start to make sense. But when you're actually in the relationship, making the mistakes or doing the things wrong, you're unaware because there aren't any consequences, right? Consequences really shape and form who and what you want to be, right? So today I outlined a few questions about this topic, and it's really something I'm surprised that you don't see more of. You know, there's a lot of YouTube videos on no contact and dating, specifically dating, right? It's kind of funny because people will say, "Oh, you're a dating coach?" No, I help people most with breakups, but then we go from there. But dating is kind of evolved, right? So, with dating apps and the internet, it's changed quite a bit in 5 to 10 years than what it used to be. Like cold approaches are not as common. Um, Pictures really count. Someone just asked me recently, "What do you think about dating apps? What do you think I should do?" As a client of mine, I said, "Well, your picture's good." And I said, honestly, this might sound a little over the top to some people. Get a professional photographer because pictures count that much. And he went and did it. And he's like, immediately, he got more hits, if you will. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Things have changed in that way. And so you have to think about it this way. Whenever you're in a relationship, whether it's friends, family, or colleagues, there's negotiations going on. There's power dynamics. There's someone that cares less about the situation, and that's the person that usually wins in a relationship or in a business deal, really, right? The person that can walk away and give a shit has more power because if they don't get it for their price, no sweat off their balls, right? It's like, no problem. I didn't get it for my price. It's all good. And they usually either get the price they want or what they want, or they walk away and they're completely fine. And that's how you want to be when you break up and you go into no contact. It's pretty hard to get there for a lot of people. So let's just go through these questions. Mary, welcome. Anyone that comes on deck today or has some comments, please put them down below. Why does power corrupt? This is a good question because this is a worldly question. This is a political question for a lot of people. But if you think about it, human beings that get too much power generally do become corrupted. We see this in fame. We see this in businesses. How many times have you worked somewhere and someone that you worked with maybe side by side has an elevated position and changes who they are, how they treat you, and you're thinking, wow, the power really went to this person's head, right? Have you been in a place of power before? Have you been in a place of power where you changed? Now, I'm going somewhere with this on the relationship tip. What happens in the relationship is it changes a lot, right? So why guys overcompensate when power changes in relationships? So for example, let's say that there's a relationship where someone's chasing the other person for a year or 2 years. The woman, the female, the young lady is 100% all in for the relationship. And the guy's like 70, 80% in, kind of laughing, kind of, well, I'm going to go out with my friends. I'm going to do this. She chases. Then finally she cuts the cord and she said, I'm done. I'm actually seeing someone else. The guy goes, wait a minute. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you give me a hint? This is what guys do a lot of time. Why didn't you give me a warning? Really? You're just going to break up like that? Well, she's not just tired of chasing. She's tired of having no power in the situation. She hasn't got your attention in any way. So she goes for the gold and she breaks up. And there's someone on, and if she's a good catch or she's good looking, and she's in an area where she can meet other people, it's going to happen. And the guy's going, wait, what happened? So then they start talking again. Well, let's talk this over. Let's talk this through. Now she suddenly has power. You really want to be with me after I've chased you for 2 years? She's not going to say that. She's going to go, oh, you know what? It's just not a good idea. We didn't work out, this, that, and the other. But now she has the power. You want her more than she wants you. A lot of women, it's a turnoff. Now, a lot of people with this simple statement, I'll have my cake and eat it too. We're out of a breakup. A lot of times, if someone can have their cake and eat it too, meaning, hey, I don't want to get back with you, but I'll still date you so I can wean myself off the relationship. Or worst case scenario, if I fail at finding someone better than you, then maybe we can get back together. But they have all the leverage, right? Because if you're the type and you're like, I don't want to do this, I actually just want to be with you. Well, then you're already at a loss. They have power. They're saying, you know what? If I lose you or I don't have you, it's fine. If I date someone else and find someone that's equal or higher value, then I'm fine. But if you're not willing to walk away and take your own shot, then they're going to have leverage on that. That's just how it is. Now, once you feel that leverage, you start to overcompensate. You start to do things out of character because you just want to get the power back, right? Someone's like, wow, why are you suddenly taking me to the most expensive restaurant in town when we've never done that before? That's an overcompensation. Why are you buying me roses when for 2 years I've never gotten roses before? A lot of times it's because you saw it in a movie and you just think, oh, if I do something extreme, then I can pull back the power dynamics. Doesn't always work that way. So here's an interesting question. Where's the leverage in most relationships today? This is kind of interesting because I'm sure it's changed from the caveman years, right? Money would probably be one of the number ones, right? Now people can talk shit about this or say a gold digger, but money's very, very important in relationships because it's how you eat, it's how you house yourself, it's how you clothe yourself. And the people that I notice that say money doesn't matter already have it, or they grew up with a lot of it. You know, money doesn't matter to me. Money doesn't matter to me. I don't care about money. Well, it's essential, right? It's essential. So the person that has more money in the relationship, they don't necessarily rule the relationship, because you could have someone that has a lot of money that has a weakness, such as good intimacy. Let's say we had a rich guy. Guy's really rich, right? So he's going to have more leverage with women that have less money. And those women are going to be more attracted to him because he can instantly create a better lifestyle for them and fill that void of being broke, right? Quickly, also, with no work. So that woman's going to find something probably that guy doesn't have, right? Such as good intimacy, a good-looking woman. And a lot of people with money, not all, have an ego. They like stuff that shows people that they have a lot of money. Not all, but some, but a lot. And so if you have a really good-looking woman that takes care of herself in that way or has some great plastic surgery, and is great intimately, then she gives him that, and he gives her money. Now, I'm not talking about prostitution. I'm talking about where the power comes in. Now, if that woman feels like, this is where hypergamy comes in. If she feels like that's the best guy that she could get, like she really hit a home run. This guy, he's got money, he's got looks, he's got his shit together. She's never been with a guy like this before. Power dynamics are going to be like this. Because she's going to be feeling like, I really got to do what it takes. And he's going to be making most of the decisions because I don't want to do anything to break up out of this. Now, when a guy gets in that situation, and I see this a lot, and it has nothing to do with money, it's more, she used to love me so much. We had such a good relationship. What happened? Well, for one, the leverage is gone because you were out doing your thing, generally caring less. And then when she dropped the hammer and said, I'm going to break up with you, you got scared and you asked for your job back. Think about that for a minute. If we associated breakups with jobs, let's say you have a really good job. You get paid really well. You actually like the job, and you're maybe, let's just throw in, you're doing good work. You're helping people in some way. You get fired from your job. You go back and you beg your boss for your job back. Usually it doesn't work in the real world. The boss goes, look, it's, you know what? You've been lagging the last year. You haven't been putting up the numbers you used to put up. The list goes on. People have been complaining about your work. They had reasons for firing you. So begging and pleading or going back to the boss and buying them a bouquet of flowers or chocolates or taking them on a romantic dinner wouldn't get your job back. It won't get your relationship back either. It won't. It'll get pity. It'll get someone to feel sorry for you, but it's not really a power game. In that situation, you got to figure out, well, what did I do wrong? Do I agree or disagree? And am I capable of getting a similar job or better job in the future if I put my head down and keep my dignity? That's where you want to come from, right? And that is the ultimate power move in a relationship. I'll break up with you. Now, for me, I haven't had many relationships where that's a power move. That's a chess move in relationships early for some people, where they drop that on the table to get your attention. And that's really, really a bad move because they're going to play that playbook over and over again. If you wilt to that, they're going to drop that every time. It's a test. So the ultimate power move is, I will break up with you. Sometimes people don't think they mean it. Going back to the main things right now, there's money, status, looks, and social proofing, right? Those are the things that provide the most leverage. Money at an older age is more handy because looks are fleeting, right? There's no getting around that. There really isn't. When you're in your 20s, people will overlook the money thing because looks are more important to people in their 20s and who they mingle with, right? All right, so let's get into some other angles on this. Power corrupts. This idea has been thrown around for eons. I'd say it's pretty damn true in most of humankind, right? We think about it in terms of politics, but what about relationship? If one human holds all the leverage in a relationship, will they take advantage of that when needed? So I've mentioned this in a video before, so this is going to be a bit of a review, but I had an anthropology professor before. He went to Stanford. He had umpteen degrees. And I always remember this statement. He said, it's human nature to take advantage where you can. Now, some people might not agree with that, but think about that for a minute. It's human nature to take advantage where you can. And there was a story I was telling to someone a couple years back. I had a workbench I had a laundry room at my house, and this workbench was left there by the guy that lived there before. And I wasn't really using it. It was pretty useful. It was in good shape. And a friend of mine said, I got someone that'll pick that up right now and take it. And so my girlfriend at the time was like, oh, just get rid of it. It's taking up too much space. And I thought, it's a useful bench. It's pretty nice. Probably could sell it online. But I just didn't want to deal with it. So I said, you know what? Call up the guy, have him come over and pick up the bench. So the guy comes over, he picks up the bench, and he brought his wife with him, which is fine, whatever. They put it in the back of the truck. And then my garden had a few different kind of fruit plants, herb plants, and the wife had actually went to my girlfriend at the time and asked her to pick through that. I thought to myself, what is this here? Right? Like, she took some fruits and herbs on her way out too. Then the guy was kind of hanging out for a little while. He was hanging out, looking around, and I thought to myself, what is this? I think he thought, I said, this is when I lived in Thailand, so I told him to translate to him because I speak Thai, but I don't speak Thai excellent. And I said, just let him know there's nothing else I want him to take. So my point was, here I was, here's a free workbench, pretty valuable, whatever. Brings the wife, starts going through the garden to grab some herbs and some food, and then they're kind of just hanging out for a little bit, like talking and like looking around. And like I said, they were wanting more shit. The guy kind of looked a walk through around my yard downstairs and stuff. I said, this is all that I have to offer, man. It kind of pissed me off. And it wasn't even like, thank you. And this is what happens sometimes. You give someone an inch, they want to take a mile. People will take advantage where they can. They'll test. Oh, did you want me to take something else from you? Oh, these people are giving stuff away for free. I might as well get some fruit and herbs from the garden too. Excuse me, like what is this? No, did you want this over here? Yeah, I'm going to keep that. I just wanted you to take the workbench. Oh, okay. It's momentum. It's momentum. And this happens in breakups. This happens in relationships. All of a sudden the momentum changes. And you're like, what did I miss? People get on a roll. What did I miss here? We were just talking about one thing and now we went into another thing and another thing and another thing. I went from not taking out the garbage to being lazy, to being a slouch, to never taking out the garbage, to not even caring about you. You see, like it goes, and you're like, whoa, right? That's a manipulative tactic that people use to keep power. And if someone goes, oh, they're a narcissist, oh, they're this, oh, they're that, you're playing a role in that situation. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. You don't like the situation, you don't like the way you're being talked to, stand up for yourself. I was just talking to a coaching client yesterday, and he was talking about having a few public fights, right? Where he said he's broken up with this woman. He was going through some of the bad things. This is what we do in a coaching session. If you want to book one, go to rightmac.com. The link's down below. But he was saying some of the bad things, right? And one of the things was, there was a few times in public that she embarrassed him. He's like, I don't even remember the exact things, but I talked to her afterwards and I said, look, I'm not going to argue in public, but don't talk to me like that in front of friends and family, right? Now, that's a way to handle something like that because you don't want to make a public spat out of it. You want to make a big deal out of it. He did it well. But that being said, what kind of character does that individual have that they even do that in the first place? That they would use a public area to put you down or make you look stupid. Now, there are certain situations where people don't know what embarrasses certain people. Okay, so sometimes there's this gray area of like, wow, that really upset you. A client of mine just had recently where he just said, oh, shut up, kind of casually, and his girlfriend at the time just really got upset about it, right? Some people could take that in stride. That's a trigger word. But it also is a power dynamic. You can't say those words to me in these places. Do you agree or disagree? Right? You need to know where to make your stands. And right now, I would say that the two biggest ones right now are, and people won't come out and say this, is money creates the most leverage, with number two being possibly status. I mean, those, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. This has got to be hands down the biggest leverage in the relationship, right? Over and over again. This is a worldly topic. Is it fair or not fair? It doesn't matter. Younger couples can get away with the money thing, but over time it's gonna be an issue. So there was so hold on a sec. So I just had this written out. Do you know any relationship where someone lacks leverage? Someone makes more money, so if they leave, they lose lifestyle. Someone looks better than the other, so you'll lose status. This is a really interesting one. So the power comes in when someone feels like, if I break up with you, I'm going to lose XYZ. Someone will say, oh, I'm going to lose my ex. What are you going to lose about them? Great fucking question, right? Someone that I've had guys not realize why they miss their ex so much. And if their ex is a bombshell, knockout, gorgeous woman, this is especially true with men that are a little bit older in my age range. I'm 41, that are in their 40s and they're dating someone 25, 28. And it's, they don't realize it, but you'll lose a little bit of status. You're really proud of that. Someone has everything that is valuable in your relationship in their name. Oh, this is a big one. This is actually a story that I'm going to review today, but I've talked about before and I'm going to talk about it again. Someone owns the house you're living in. So I had this come up a few years back. And this guy reached out to me and said, hey, look, man, I need to talk, right? I said, I need to talk. And this was an old friend of mine, not just a coaching client, but someone I've known for years, really good friend of mine. And he was like, I just want to talk. I said, all right, well, talk to me tomorrow, book a session. Even though we're friends, pay for it, so then you don't have to worry about feeling guilty about it. He said, no problem. I want to talk about it. I said, all right, no problem. Books the session. We talk. Now, I've known his wife, his now wife. They've got kids. I've known them for a long time. I know his situation. Now, he hits me up. They were in one of those relationships. They've been together probably 10 years plus. But they've broke up to make up multiple times, where they've even moved out and seen other people, but they get back together, right? And they're also they also have a couple kids together, and they have kids out of I don't want to say out of wedlock, but you know what I mean. They each have one kid. Anyways, they break up, which I'm not surprised, because they're kind of they had this passionate relationship with that was the MO. And so he's like, yeah, she kicked me out, kind of a thing, or I moved out, but I think he got kicked out. But they were living at her parents' house in an extra unit. So the parents had an extra unit, but it's her parents' house. It's her house, right? And the area that they were living in is quite expensive. So I knew what they were doing. They're saving up money, right? Because it's so expensive where they live. And they got kids. Totally get it, right? But she had all the leverage because it's her family's home. Okay, so this is where the power dynamics come in. Someone's like, well, that's not fair. That's not right. It's fucking reality. Okay, it's her parents' place. So he gets kicked out, or he says he moved out or walked out, whatever it be. But it's her house. The minute you walk out of someone else's house that's their house or their family's house, you can't just come back in without asking, can I come back to your house? It's a tough situation to be. It's not the same as when you share a lease, right? Or a lot of times, man, this is my house. So they break up, they're out. She clears their joint bank account within a day. There's like 20 grand in the joint bank account. She just cleared it. And he was like, what the fuck? And she's like, well, most of that money's mine. You never contributed to the rent, and this is my family's house. She had all these things she built a case on. So he's like, what do I do, dude? She fucking cleared the account. I said, look, because I knew they'd probably get back together. They got kids. They've gotten back together before. And I know her. She's kneecaps. What do I mean by kneecaps? I call it kneecap theory. There's people, when they negotiate in relationships, they go straight for the kneecaps. That means that they don't really want to fight or argue. They just want to win. So some people, when they have the right leverage, get out of my house and I'll take my money. I dare you to try to get it back. And I'll break up with you. What are you going to do? It's like, well, what were you fighting over? You know what I mean? To get to that point, what were you fighting over? That you need to do more chores, that you need to make more money. What were you fighting over? And I forgot what they got in an argument like they usually do. And I think he hit her with a pillow hard. And she got really upset. And he said sorry and stuff like that. That's what he said. He's like, I didn't hurt her or anything. I just hit her with a pillow. Okay. Well, this is what I told him. I go, look, you're probably going to get back together if I know you well enough. And I know your history that you guys have made up or break up in similar situations. It's kind of your MO. You got kids, so you need to make it work if you can. He agreed. Take a few steps back. Don't make a big deal about the money because you can't take it. You can't get it all back right now. Right. But I said, bottom line is, if you do get back together, you need to move out. You need to move out and get your own place, whether that's an apartment or buying a house, because you can't have this leverage over your head again. You can't just be knocked out of the house. They got back together and they bought a house far out of that area. He had always wanted to live in that certain area that was too expensive for him, and he moved out of the area within about a year and a half. And now, to me, if something happens like that again, at least you're like, yeah, this is my house too. Because there's no leverage there. You're staying in someone else's house. And it might seem like, oh, I'm saving rent. This is really cool. My in-laws are taking care of me. But if shit goes wrong, guess what? That's a major trump card to drop. Major one. You're in my house. You're in my place. You're in my parents' place. So I had this story that came up before. I'm going to read it again, and we're going to review this again. I've been married for over 7 years to my beloved wife. We have 2 children whom I love to bits, and I love that my wife is their mother. We live in a country that is not my homeland, so I do have official citizenship. I'm on a marriage visa, and I can't own land in my own name, or so I was told by her many years ago. I have money, not a billionaire, but enough to do what I want when I want, but I also work for the money. I've built a business in my home country, and it's had its ups and downs, but now it's producing solid income, and I foresee that lasting and getting better and better. My wife likes to spend money. She believes she's a businesswoman, and I've bankrolled her on several businesses that have all failed, and I'm not blaming her completely. But let's just say she's not a good businesswoman. Results have proven this. Yet she opens another and another. Well, you're bankrolling them, so you're a part of this. This is the big thing, right? And I'm going to go somewhere, even though I've talked about this particular story before, there's an update on this. And the big thing is like, another. Who's bankrolling it? Where's your leverage? Right? In the past, I'd get talked into it, and then recently it seems like some facts are left out. Then I go all in with her and realize it's a bad deal. This has happened many times over. I'm growing ill from it. It seems that she also has a taste for expensive clothes and brand names, something I can support, but there is a limit to it. So this is one of those things that how the relationship starts. So you say like, oh, she's got expensive taste, but I can support that, and it's not ideal, but okay, I'm okay. It's going to elevate, especially if you're with someone maybe in their early 30s, late 20s. A lot of times women that are into name brands and expensive items, it's probably going to be a little bit more thirsty for those items as their looks start to fleet. And it's going to elevate as they feel like you can buy more, you make more money. Recently, we remodeled our home, and a project that was to take 2 months is now on month 7. She switched the plans multiple times with my approval, without my approval. Then, and keep in mind here, all the land and all the house are in her name, is what he's saying. Then when I told, which he paid for, then when I told her no, she exclaimed that she'll pay for it herself, which means I'll pay for it with money I give her. It seems to never end. Then I'll get really angry. I'll have to think about it. Is it over? Do I want to put up with this? Do I want to carry on with this utter madness? I'm 40 something years old. If this continues, she could bankrupt me. I'm not stupid, but I do love her. But more than all that, I have no leverage. I have 2 kids with her that are citizens in this country. We have multiple properties that are solely in her name for tax purposes. And if I even dropped the threat of divorce, she goes straight to the kneecaps, as you say, and it's a lot to lose. I still have my business back home and some property there. I even have some money stashed other places, but I know deep down she'd turn the kid against me, and she'd be nasty as a devil that was thrown in an ice bath. So when I want to fight back, I just think it's not worth it. Can I really stomach this? So right there, the consequences: broken relationship with my kids, multiple properties will all go to her. So where's the leverage? Is there any leverage here? And there's an update on this story, by the way. There's an update on this. This same story, this guy came back to me recently, and they had some money in the safe. I'm not going to go into the details, and that was cleared out in the name of a new business venture. And the guy was beside himself to me, and I'm thinking to myself, this is just what people don't really realize. And there's so much power in talking to a coach or a therapist like myself, right? Like, you got to keep track of this shit, or you're just going to subconsciously keep doing it. He has no idea the track record that he's running here, and he's just getting deeper and deeper. It's like being in the kiddie end of the pool and saying you're drowning, and there's 2 feet of water, and you're like, just stand up, dude. Fucking stand up. Stand up. Right? It won't end. But you got to realize, where's my power in this situation? Did I give up all power here? And then when someone takes advantage of that power and you're shocked, why are you shocked? Why would you be shocked? They've been using that leverage on you the whole time. Well, they're a really nice person. Well, power corrupts, man. People take advantage where they can. It happens all the time. These points of leverage, right? We've got 9 on deck, 3 likes. If anyone wants to share or say a situation where they lost leverage in a relationship and they didn't even know how it came about. Have you had that happen where you just lost all your leverage? It can be money, it could be status. And do you even like that term, leverage in a relationship? Is it fitting? Is it out of place? Or is it reality? It's pretty interesting, right? There's power dynamics here. They're in relationships. They're in them all the time. And for someone to say it's not all about the money, well, says who? The person with a lot of money? But I think one of the things that is used by women in relationships is intimacy. That one comes back again and again. A lot of guys that are pretty hung up on relationships, they haven't had intimacy in their life like that before. They've been in a dry spell for a long time. The woman's really good looking or good looking to them. Comes up again and again. The things a guy will deal with in the name of the pie is absolutely amazing. They won't publicly say that. All right, Mary Ellie, Peter Winnick. Pete, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. Losing something that you had is one of the greatest fears for folks across the board. After gaining power, the fear of its loss is what drives the corruption. I guess so, right? It's a hard fall from a high mountain. You know what I'd add to that, Pete, when you talk about politics in that way, is someone climbing that mountain to get to that place. And if they're a little bit insecure or they had to kneecap some people on the way up, they're thinking, who's going to kneecap me? Mary Ellie says, love bombing. The person who's more able to walk is the one who has leverage. Absolutely. Long time no see. What's up, Marco? Justin Brown, how you doing, my friend? Everybody wants someone with status. Status of what? Gay in NYC. It might be her house, but you are not legally allowed to clear out a joint bank account. That's probably true, but I'm sure if they had debit cards, I'm sure that there's a will, there's a way, and I'm sure he could have took her to court for clearing out that account. But if he wanted to get back with her, he probably had to negotiate a little bit. But what happens in a lot of times, right? If you give in to a certain situation, someone finds a way that if you break up with me and I do this, I'll get you back. They know where they have you. It's almost like blackmail, right? If someone had a prenup made and you get all your money from that individual, you're not only losing a partner, you're losing a job. This actually happens a lot in relationships with a big age gap where someone, we've all seen it before, where someone marries for money. And to be completely honest, there is men out there that have married for money. I've seen them in these relationships. And guess what? They don't rule shit. They don't. The guys that I know that have married for money, they're not ruling the roost. They're usually taking on a secondary role. So there was one more story here I'm going to close out with. And like I said, this is a review of a story that I've done before. I'm 38 and my wife is 37. We were in high school sweethearts. We had our first kid when I was 19. Then about 3 years later, we had a breakup. She said I wasn't responsible and doing bad shit, which I was. But somehow after 6 months, she came back to me. I improved myself. We got married. I got a good job. And she got a good job. We had another kid. We bought a house. We were able to put a huge pool in the backyard. We were doing well. And we then had another kid, which was our plan all along. We had the house, the jobs, 3 healthy kids, live close to the family. Things were good. Then I had an injury at work and went on disability. Soon found that staying at home with the kids actually saved us money and was also better for raising the kids. Not to mention with my injury, I couldn't go back to work. This hurt us financially for a bit, but then my wife really stepped up at her job and started crushing it, carrying the family while I played Mr. Mom. It worked and she appreciated what I did. Then at some point it didn't. She started complaining that I should get a job, and I explained my injury was too bad for that. I had some side hustles for extra money, but over time I came more and more reliant on her. I'd literally have to ask her if I could have money for new socks or shoes. It felt demasculating. And I think her friends started to give her shit about it. All the while I was picking up the kids from school, making dinner, doing laundry, taking them to practice, doctor's appointments. It's a full-time job. She'd get home late and just go to her room to watch TV, maybe have some dinner, and I cooked. This carried on. Intimacy started to crumble. I drank more, but on a hand, I'd always had my evening beers. Then I got a sniff from a source in the family that she wasn't happy at all, and that she said she's just hanging out till the kids get older. I confronted her on it. She denied it, but in a way that I knew it was slightly true. We had some talks, and then she dropped well, maybe you should move out. He says, wow, what? So I took some inventory. The house had some equity, about $200,000. She had been making all the money the last 10 years, at least on paper. So after a few romantic attempts at reconciling things, she continued it was best I moved out and that I could still take care of the kids and do what I do. The story's going somewhere. She always appreciated that about me. She just needed space. The kids were asked who they wanted to live with. They all said mom, as mom was always the good cop and she had the money. They knew that. So I thought it out. I called up my uncle who lived in the Caribbean. I won't say the exact place, and had been there for years, had a small restaurant and bar. So I said, look, how much is an operation like yours? He gave me the figures and said he could guide me further if need be. So my wife pushed the move out card one more time. And I said, look, I'm moving out. We can get a divorce. You can have the kids. And I'm moving to the Caribbean with my uncle. That's leverage. That's going all in on negotiating, folks. She went speechless. I said, you aren't keeping the house. We're selling it. I'm moving to the Caribbean to open a bar. I've already talked to my uncle, and she knows my uncle and I are close. I wasn't bluffing. I said the kids could visit me a couple times a year. For getting a divorce, I'll be sipping cocktails on the beach. Again, speechless, followed by what? And here's the thing. I was serious. Her plan was I'll move out, continue my duties as a dad, and she'll get the house as she was paying the payment. Reality check. My name was on that house. I had helped come up with a down payment, paid the payment for years prior to losing my job. I had the right to sell half. So what happened next? We worked it out quickly. This was actually a story of a client of mine a while back, and it's true. That's some serious leverage that he dropped. Right? Someone might say, well, that's not right. He wasn't going to see his... He went all in on negotiating. That was a power move. No, you're not going to stay at the house. We're going to sell it. I'm going to take half and I'm going to leave. I'm no longer going to do the duties that I did before. You're no longer going to have Mr. Mom. And when that thing came to the table, it changed everything. Absolutely changed everything. All right, folks, please put it in the comments below if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, any topics you want me to touch on in the future. I'm here for you. I'll be here at 10 a.m. every day this week. I'm looking forward to it. We'll keep it all the way through this month, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. It's curtains.